Welcome back to my channel, Valuable Rare Coins. If you love discovering hidden treasures in your pocket change, you're in the right place. In this first video, we'll uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're talking about the 1967 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it seems like just another quarter. Same size, same face, same weight. But let me tell you, this specific year holds a few secrets. And by the end of this video, you'll see how a seemingly ordinary coin could end up being worth a staggering amount of money. Let's rewind the clock to the late 1960s. The United States was in the middle of a coinage revolution. In 1965, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision to stop using silver in circulating coins like dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Rising silver prices had made it too expensive to continue minting coins with the precious metal. So beginning in 1965, the Washington quarter, like the one we're talking about today, was no longer struck in 90% silver. Instead, it was made from a copper-nickel clad composition. That change remained in place in 1967. Now, while this might seem like just a technical adjustment, the ripple effects were huge, especially for collectors. In 1967, the Mint also made another important change. Because of the recent hoarding and coin shortages that followed the silver removal, the government decided not to put mint marks on any coins that year. That's right, whether your quarter was made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, you wouldn't be able to tell. They all look the same. And to reduce collector activity, the Mint also didn't produce any proof coins for the general public that year. But here's where things start to get interesting. Some quarters from 1967 exhibit characteristics far beyond what you'd expect from a mass-produced coin meant for everyday use. These coins show incredible detail, mirror-like surfaces, and crisp edges far superior to regular circulation strikes. These are known as Special Mint Set or SMS coins. They were never released in regular change and were only included in special collector sets. But even among these SMS coins, there are rare standouts, coins with errors, die varieties, or near-perfect condition that place them into a completely different category. Imagine finding a 1967 quarter that was struck off-center, double-dyed, or even, by mistake, on a leftover silver planchet. These types of minting errors are not only rare, they are extremely valuable. And here's something even more exciting. A few 1967 quarters have been discovered with deep cameo contrast, which means the design appears frosty and raised against a mirror-like background. This type of finish is almost unheard of outside of proof coins. What happens when you combine all of this? A transitional time in minting history, a year without mint marks, rare SMS strikes, and the possibility of mint errors or special finishes. You get a coin that's no longer worth just 25 cents. You get a potential jackpot. Collectors around the world are constantly hunting for these rare variations of the 1967 Washington quarter. But there's something that sets the highest value coins apart from the rest: condition. Grading plays a huge role. A 1967 quarter in average circulated condition might only be worth its face value. But one that's in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially with SMS quality or a rare mint error, can be worth hundreds or even thousands. But here's the part that will really make you want to check your coin jar tonight. Point one such coin. A 1967 Washington quarter dollar in pristine condition with exceptional detail and special mint characteristics was sold at auction for an unbelievable $145,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $145,000. For a single quarter. What's the takeaway here? That old quarter in your drawer, the one you've seen 100 times, might not be as ordinary as it looks. Especially if it's from 1967. Take a closer look. Check for mirror-like surfaces, unusual strike details, rare errors, and above all, check the condition. Because that 25-cent piece might just be the key to an incredible discovery. Second rare coin, let's talk about the 1971 Washington quarter. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just a quarter. It's been in circulation for decades. What could possibly make it special? Well, that's where things get interesting. Because the story of the 1971 quarter is a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins can turn out to be extraordinary treasures. Let's start with the basics. The Washington quarter has been a staple of U.S. coinage since 1932, originally created to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. The front of the coin features the iconic left-facing portrait of Washington, with the words "Liberty" above, "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date just below his neck. On the reverse, you'll find a majestic eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows and framed by olive branches, representing both strength and peace. Now, by 1971, the composition of the quarter had already changed. Gone were the days of 90% silver. The mint had shifted to a copper-nickel-clad composition back in 1965 to reduce costs. So the quarters from 1971 were no longer silver, but that doesn't mean they were worthless. In fact, quite the opposite. You see, the value of a coin doesn't just depend on what it's made of. It depends on how rare it is, how well it was preserved, and whether or not it has any unique features that set it apart from the millions of others made that year. And 1971? That year produced some fascinating surprises. Let's start with minting. Washington quarters in 1971 were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and those struck in Denver carry a small D mint mark on the front of the coin, right behind Washington's ponytail. However, unlike coins made for collectors, regular circulation coins from that year were often struck quickly and in huge quantities, meaning errors and imperfections weren't uncommon. And believe it or not, that's where the magic lies. Some of the rarest and most valuable 1971 quarters are the ones that were struck with errors, and these aren't just your average mistakes. We're talking about double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and coins struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Imagine this: a 1971 quarter that was accidentally struck on a nickel planchet, making it much lighter and smaller than it should be. Or a coin with a double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears doubled due to a misalignment during production. These kinds of errors can elevate a regular quarter into an incredibly valuable collector's item, but it's not just about errors. Condition matters too. Coins that have been preserved in mint state condition, no scratches, no circulation wear, just clean, crisp detail, are much rarer than most people realize. And when a coin like that surfaces, especially if it also happens to feature a rare error or an unusual strike, collectors take notice. These top-tier coins are graded by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, with the highest grades, MS, 67 and above, commanding enormous premiums. Add in rarity, an error, or special characteristics like strong luster, sharp details, or a dramatic mint flaw, and you have a recipe for serious money. So, here's the question everyone's been waiting for. Just how valuable can a 1971 Washington quarter actually be? Well, one remarkable example, a 1971 quarter in absolutely pristine condition, combined with a rare minting anomaly and exceptional eye appeal, shocked the coin collecting world when it sold at auction for a breathtaking $120,000. That's right. A coin that started out as a simple 25 cents, meant for everyday use, ended up being worth $120,000. So, if you've got an old stash of quarters, or you happen to come across one from 1971, don't just toss it into a vending machine. Look closely. Check for weight. Examine the details. You never know, you might be holding a piece of American history worth more than a luxury car. Third expensive coin. What if I told you that one specific version of the 1979 Washington quarter could be worth a fortune today? That's right. The 1979 Washington quarter dollar might just be the hidden gem in your coin collection or pocket change. So don't blink, because what you're about to learn could change the way you look at coins forever. Let's go back to the late 1970s. America was coming out of a turbulent era. The economy was shifting, inflation was high, and the U.S. Mint was busy producing coins for an ever-growing population. In 1979, the Washington quarter had already become a well-known part of American life. Introduced back in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, the design had remained mostly unchanged, classic, clean, and familiar. On the obverse of the coin, you'll find the stoic portrait of George Washington, with the word Liberty curved over his head and the date 1979 just below. To the left, the phrase "In God We Trust" appears in bold. On the reverse, you see the powerful image of an eagle, wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows and surrounded by olive branches. It's a patriotic symbol of strength and peace, timeless, and still in use today. Now, here's what you need to know. By 1979, the U.S. had long stopped minting silver quarters. The coin was made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, durable and cheap, perfect for everyday use. Millions were made that year, so in theory, a 1979 quarter shouldn't be rare at all. But the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and the magic lies in the details. There are 3 key things that can make a coin like this go from pocket change to powerhouse value: rarity, condition, and minting errors. Let's talk minting first. The 1979 quarters were struck at multiple mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Quarters from Denver have a D mint mark, and those from San Francisco have an S. Interestingly, coins from the Philadelphia Mint in 1979 carry no mint mark at all, which is completely normal. But here's where things get exciting. Some 1979 quarters have been found with errors, and not just minor flaws, but significant, attention-grabbing mistakes. Think double die errors, where parts of the design are stamped twice slightly out of alignment. Or off-center strikes, where the image and text are visibly shifted. Then there are coins that were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet, giving them a completely different look, feel, or weight point. One of the most interesting types is a broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread out. These errors are dramatic and highly collectible. There are also rare clipped planchet errors, where a piece of the coin's edge is actually missing due to a cutting mistake before striking. But errors aren't the only thing that boost a coin's value. Condition matters a lot. Most quarters from 1979 went straight into people's pockets, change jars, and vending machines. Over time, they got scratched, worn, and tarnished. But a few, just a few, were kept in perfect, untouched condition. Coins like that, especially those graded by professionals as MS 66, MS 67, or even higher, can command serious attention in the collecting world. Now imagine this: a 1979 Washington quarter with an ultra-rare minting error, preserved in flawless mint state condition. A coin like that doesn't just attract collectors, it ignites bidding wars. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. One extraordinary example of the 1979 Washington quarter dollar. Featuring a rare mint error and preserved in remarkable condition, stunned collectors when it sold for an incredible $110,000. Yes, you heard that right. $110,000 for a single quarter. So the next time you're sorting through your change or flipping through an old coin album, pay close attention to those 1979 quarters. Look for sharp details, any unusual flaws, or errors in design. Weigh them. Study them. Because one of those ordinary-looking coins could be the extraordinary find of a lifetime. Especially, we're talking about a single quarter from 1981, struck at the Denver Mint, one that could potentially turn heads in the coin collecting world. By the end of this video, you'll see just how valuable this ordinary-looking piece of change can become under the right circumstances. So make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end, because this little coin holds a big surprise. Let's start by talking a bit about the coin itself. The Washington quarter has been around since 1932 and was originally created to honor George Washington's 200th birthday. It quickly became a staple of American currency and has remained one of the most iconic designs in circulation. The obverse of the coin, the front, features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, flanked by the word Liberty above and the famous phrase, "In God We Trust," to the left. The date appears neatly at the bottom, 1981. Now, if you look just to the right of Washington's ponytail, you'll spot the small letter D. That's the Denver mint mark, indicating that this coin was struck in Colorado. The reverse side is equally iconic, showing an eagle with wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows, surrounded by olive branches. It's a symbol of strength and peace, and it's been the face of the quarter for decades. Now, here's where things get interesting. BY 1981, the Washington quarter was being made from a copper-nickel-clad composition. Silver had long been phased out after 1964, so these coins were not intended to be precious metal pieces. In fact, they were mass-produced in the millions, just for everyday use. And the 1981 D quarter? Over 500 million were struck. So, at first glance, it would seem impossible that any of them could be worth more than their face value. But in the world of coin collecting, value isn't just about how many coins were made. It's about how rare a certain version is today, how well preserved it is, and whether it has unique errors or characteristics that make it stand out from the rest. Let's talk about those differences. First, condition is absolutely everything. Most 1981 D quarters were circulated heavily. They've been through pockets, purses, cash registers, and vending machines. They've picked up scratches, dings, discoloration, and wear. But a small number of these coins managed to escape that fate. These are coins that were never spent, never touched by bare hands, and were kept in protective holders for decades. These are known as mint state coins, and they're graded on a scale from 1 to 70. Coins that hit grades like MS, 66, MS, 67, or higher become instantly more desirable to collectors. Then, there are the error coins, and this is where things really get exciting. In rare cases, a coin may be struck with a double die, where elements like the date or lettering appear twice due to a misalignment during the minting process. Other rare errors include off-center strikes, where the design is visibly misaligned, or clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing. Even more rare is a wrong planchet error, where the quarter was struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, like a nickel or penny. Collectors go wild for these types of mistakes, especially when the error is dramatic and the coin is in high-grade condition. The combination of rarity, uniqueness, and mint state preservation is like hitting the lottery in the coin world. Now, imagine this. You come across a 1981 D Washington quarter that has an extremely rare minting error. It's never been circulated, never been handled carelessly, and has been graded by a professional service as a near-perfect coin. Add in the excitement of a highly visible strike anomaly or a wrong planchet, and suddenly, this everyday quarter transforms into something truly exceptional, and now here it is. The moment you've been waiting for. One extraordinary example of the 1981 D Washington quarter dollar, struck with a rare mint error and preserved in impeccable, uncirculated condition, was auctioned off for an astonishing $90,000. Yes, you heard that right. $90,000. For a coin that most people wouldn't look at twice. The next time you're flipping through your spare change or going through an old coin collection, take a close look at those quarters, especially the ones from 1981 with a tiny D next to the date. You never know what kind of hidden treasure you might be holding. Now, we're diving deep into the 1986 P Washington quarter, a piece of change that might be sitting quietly in your pocket or coin jar, hiding a value that'll shock you. Most people don't give quarters a second thought. They get passed around quickly, used for parking meters, vending machines, or maybe tossed into the tip jar without a moment's pause. But what if I told you that there's one version of the 1986 Washington quarter with a tiny P mint mark that could be worth far more than just 25 cents? Let's take a journey through this coin story and find out how something so common could end up being incredibly valuable. The Washington quarter has been a fixture in American coinage since 1932, and by 1986, the design hadn't changed much. The obverse, or front, still featured George Washington's profile, modeled after the bust sculpted by Jean-Antoine Houdon. Around the portrait, you'll see the word Liberty arched above his head, In God We Trust to the left, and the year 1986 neatly placed at the bottom. But just next to Washington's ponytail, that's where you'll spot a small P, indicating that this quarter was minted in Philadelphia. The reverse side continues the tradition, a majestic eagle with wings stretched wide, perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath. A powerful image representing both strength and peace. Now, in 1986, the U.S. Mint was producing coins for mass circulation. In fact, over 550 million quarters were struck that year in Philadelphia alone. That's a staggering number, which might make you wonder, how could any of them possibly be rare or valuable? Well, here's where the fun begins. It's not just about how many were made. It's about how few have survived in exceptional condition. And even fewer with unique features or striking errors that make collectors' jaws drop. Let's talk about what makes a 1986 P quarter valuable. First up, condition. Most of these coins have been through decades of use, clinking through coin rolls, bouncing around in pockets, or scraping the bottom of cash drawers. But every once in a while, one of these coins escapes that fate. It's tucked away straight from the mint, untouched, uncirculated, and perfectly preserved. These are known as mint state coins, and they're graded on a 70-point scale. The closer to 70, the better. A coin graded MS, 66, MS, 67, or even higher can command serious interest from collectors. Next, minting errors and anomalies. This is where the real magic happens. In rare cases, 1986, P quarters were struck with errors that make them stand out dramatically. Some have been found with double die obverse, where the lettering or even Washington's profile appears duplicated due to a misaligned strike. Others have visible off-center strikes, where part of the design is pushed off the coin surface. There are also broad strike errors, clipped planchets, and even a few mysterious cases where a quarter was struck on a foreign coin blank. These types of errors are extremely rare, and when paired with a coin in flawless or near-flawless condition, the value multiplies. But here's where it gets even more interesting. One particular 1986 P. Washington quarter caught the attention of serious numismatists not just because of an error, but because it was flawlessly struck, perfectly preserved, and had deep luster and sharp detail, almost proof-like in appearance. That coin didn't just look good. It looked like it had been frozen in time. Now let's talk money, because while most people are walking around with worn, scratched versions of this coin worth exactly 25 cents, someone out there had a 1986 P quarter that became the crown jewel of their collection, and it happened. One rare example of the 1986 P Washington quarter dollar, graded at a top-tier mint state level with outstanding characteristics and collector appeal, was sold for a mind-blowing $77,000. Yes, you heard that right. $77,000. For a single quarter minted in 1986. So what can we learn from this? Sometimes the most valuable treasures aren't buried in the ground or locked in a vault. They're sitting in a coin jar, waiting to be discovered. If you've got a handful of old quarters, take a closer look. Check the mint marks, examine the condition, and look for anything unusual. Because one of them might be hiding a story worth telling and a price worth dreaming about. Last unique coin, we're talking about the 1990 P. Washington quarter. Now, you've probably handled one of these at some point. It's not old enough to seem rare and not new enough to feel special. But let me tell you something. Hidden among the millions of 1990 P quarters out there are a select few that defy the odds. Coins with such perfect detail or such strange minting errors that they've become valuable gems in the eyes of collectors. Let's start with a little history. The Washington quarter was first minted in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of America's first president. And for nearly a century now, it's been one of the most recognizable coins in the U.S. Today's quarter might feel like small change, but each year tells a different story, and the 1990 P edition has a few twists of its own. The P mint mark on this coin stands for Philadelphia, the mint where it was produced. In 1990, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 800 million of these quarters. That's a huge number, which might make you wonder, how could any of them be rare or valuable? And that's exactly what makes this story so fascinating. You see, in the world of coin collecting, value isn't always about how few were made. Sometimes it's about how few were preserved, and more importantly, how few were struck with unique characteristics that set them apart. And the 1990 P quarter? It checks both boxes for a lucky few. Let's talk about what collectors look for. First, condition is everything. Most coins are used, handled, and worn down. But once in a while, a coin escapes into the world without ever being touched. These coins are called mint state coins. They're sharp, lustrous, and free from the dings and scratches of circulation. The best ones are graded by professionals on a scale up to 70, and those in the high 60s, like MS 66 or MS 67, are incredibly sought after. Then there are errors and oddities, those rare accidents during the minting process that create one-of-a-kind coins. Some 1990 P quarters have been found with off-center strikes, where the design is shifted dramatically. Others have been struck on the wrong type of metal, like a planchet meant for a nickel or a foreign coin. And then there's the famous double die error, where letters or numbers appear slightly doubled due to a misaligned strike. Each of these errors makes the coin even more collectible. But here's the thing, it's not just about finding an error. It's about finding one in absolutely stunning condition. One of the most thrilling things about the 1990 P quarter is that it doesn't scream rare at first glance. That's why so many of them slip through the cracks. They're sitting in piggy banks, forgotten in drawers, or even used as change without anyone realizing the potential value tucked inside. But those who know what to look for, the collectors who check every detail, who send their coins in for grading, who notice the smallest difference in shine or strike, those people sometimes strike gold. And now, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. One particular 1990 P Washington $quarter coin, flawlessly preserved in mint state and featuring a rare minting anomaly, captured the attention of collectors nationwide. After careful authentication and grading, that unassuming little coin, originally worth just 25 cents, was sold for a breathtaking $50,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $50,000 for a single quarter. Before you drop that 1990 quarter into a vending machine or pass it along as spare change, take a closer look. Examine the strike. Check for errors. And above all, consider its condition. Because you never know, you might just be holding a piece of numismatic history worth more than a new car. Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to hear more incredible coin stories that could change the way you look at your pocket change, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications. There's treasure everywhere. You just have to know where to look. Until next time, happy collecting, and may your next coin surprise you in the best way possible.